Hello, I'm Jonah with Magnanimous Media, and today I'm going to be talking about the Glidecam Camcrane 200. The Camcrane is a standard jib. It's meant for cameras in the 10 to 15 pound range, as it has a weight limit of 100 pounds. The Camcrane jib is a great solution for getting a lot of production value. It can be used for big sweeping shots, high angle shots, low angle shots, as well as really subtle shots that people don't tend to think of when they think of jibs. Especially when you pair it with a tripod head, it allows you to get a great variety of motion out of one simple item. You can basically have the camera live on the jib and use it as a hi-hat, as a really tall tripod for those high angle shots, and a number of other static shots. So the parts that are included with the Glidecam Camcrane 200 are the fulcrum, the tail, the shafts, obviously, that comprise the major part of the jib, and those are secured together by these aluminum sleeves. The head, to secure the arm, you have 8 bolts, and then to secure your head and tail and fulcrum, you have 6 bolts. You're going to need a 11mm and 14mm wrench, as well as an 11mm and 14mm socket in order to put this together. The other parts that are included are the washers, which are both used for spacing and to fine-tune your weight balance, as well as a wing nut, which is used to attach a tripod head to the plate. Okay, so the first thing in assembling this that we're going to do is determine our length. The jib can be arranged in 8-foot length, 6-foot length, and 5-foot length. And you're going to want to change that length depending on how much space you're working in. If you're working in a large room or outside and you need to get high, you're obviously going to want all the length. Otherwise, you're going to want a short jib in a confined space. The first thing we're going to do is determine the section that the fulcrum attaches to. The way you do that is look at the piece and find the one that has the most bushings on it. And your business end, the end that is going to be attached to the extensions, is going to be towards the side with the greatest collection of bushings. And the other end will attach to the tail. We're going to go ahead and set this up as an 8-foot jib. So we're going to start with the shortest section and attach it to one of our long extensions. The way you do that is get one of your aluminum sleeves and insert that in one end. Line up the holes and insert your bolts. Replace the washer, add the nut, and then you can leave this piece loose. Then you'll take your short section and you want to use the side that does not have any bushings on it. So we're going to use this side. Just slide that on. Now you're going to use your 14mm socket on your ratchet and your 14mm wrench. It's important to use a wrench and socket on this, as if you use vice grips, it will damage the bolt head. Now these don't need to be extremely tight because they're not bearing weight, so once you get it snug, you want to just take it about 1/8 of a turn further. Now we're going to attach this long section to the segment that attaches to the fulcrum. And you essentially repeat the same process by placing the sleeve and attaching the bolts. Once you have one complete section, you will repeat the process and create an exact duplicate of that section with the other pieces that you have. So once you have your two sections identical in length and in placement of the sections, you'll want to attach the head and the tail. So we'll take our first piece, which is the short end that the head is going to attach to, and line the head up on the bushings. and just get it finger tight for now, and we'll attach the other rod. Once you have the bolts placed, you're ready to tighten it down. You're going to do that with your 11mm wrench and socket. The important thing to remember when tightening these bolts on the head and the tail, as well as the fulcrum, is that these are movement points. So you don't want them to be too tight or you'll get lurchy motion out of your jib. You just want it to be snug enough that the bolt and the nut are making contact with the washer. You want this to move freely, as that's what it's going to need to do during operation. These are lock nuts, so they'll lock onto the bolt, so you don't have to worry about them getting loose or falling off. They'll be fine just where they are. So let's go ahead and tighten the second one. Once you're finished attaching the head, you'll go ahead and attach the tail, and you'll do that by following the same procedure by tightening it just enough to touch the washers. Once you have the tail on, you're ready to attach the fulcrum. And that's when you need to decide if you want the head in the standard upright position or if you want it inverted. There's a number of reasons for having it inverted or upright. If you have it upright, you can use the head as it was intended and flat mount a camera, but you can also attach a tripod head, which gives you greater range of motion. If you have it inverted, you can get lower down on top of items and rake them. So you want to decide if you want it up or down first before you attach the fulcrum and attach it accordingly. So when attaching the fulcrum, you're going to use the middle section with the bushings. So we'll go ahead and line the fulcrum up. And place the bolts. When you attach the fulcrum, the same thing that applies to the head and tail applies here, where you just want to get it snug enough to touch the bushings. Once you have the jib assembled, you're ready to place it on the tripod. The first thing you want to do is make sure that the tripod is level. After the tripod is level, you'll go ahead and place your jib. And you attach it in the same way that you attach a head to the tripod, and then tighten it securely. Once you have your jib placed on the tripod, you're ready to place your camera on the jib. The first way and the simplest way to attach the camera to the jib is to mount the camera flush with this head. Simply place the camera on and use one of these small thin washers over a standard either 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch bolt. So with this head, the flush mount is how this jib was intended to be used, but you're very limited with this setup because you can essentially only do rising or falling motion, and you can't really articulate the camera because it's stuck in the flush position. We suggest using a 75mm ball head. With this jib, it allows you to get a lot more of that motion there and really customize your shots. The way you attach this is first by placing washers as a spacer for this nut on the bottom of this tripod head. Then place your head on the flathead. Tighten it firmly, and your head's ready to go. For the inverted setup, you're basically going to do the same thing with a tripod head, but upside down. Place your washer and place the bolt through the head of the jib. Once you have the head in place, there's a number of ways that you can attach the camera. You can either use the mounting points on the top of the camera, place your plate on that, and then attach it to the head, or you can flip the camera over and attach it to the head and then shoot as you would in low mode with the Steadicam and then flip your image in post. The method that we suggest is using the Red Rock rig. When using the Red Rock rig in the inverted setup with the jib, what you'll do is just set up your Red rock rig with the camera like you always would, except for you want to give a maximum amount of rod space in the back. You can even attach the shoulder mount to this, but you want to have plenty of space in the back for the rods. When using the red rock rig in an inverted setup with the jib, we'll also include this item, which will allow you to attach your base plate to the red rock rig. You just attach your base plate to this using 2 of the standard 3/8 bolts, and then attach this to the head of the tripod on the jib. Once you have your base plate attached to the tripod head on the jib, you're ready to install your red rock rig by sliding the rods firmly into place. The reason why we use setups like this and suggest them to other users is that it gives you a maximum amount of control over the movement of the jib and the type of versatility of the image that you're going to get from the jib. So once you have your camera set up on the rig and all your peripheral devices attached, you'll want to go ahead and put the weights on. Now this jib has a weight limit of 100 pounds, so you want to limit the amount of weight on the front end so that you can save some of that capacity for adding the weights. The first thing you want to do is place the camera on something sturdy like an apple box or a nice flat and sturdy surface before you start to add the weight. When you add the weights, you'll start with the heaviest weight first and then work your way down. Once the camera begins to rise, you know you've put on too much weight and you want to go to a smaller weight like the 2.5 pound or fine tune with the washers. Once you fine tune the weight with your washers, you can add your collar lock. So once you have your weight fine tuned, you'll notice that the camera floats freely and you want it to be able to rest without holding it down or holding it up. And what that'll allow you to do is even let the camera live on the jib, and then you can just set your static shots up from the jib. When you're ready to move the jib, if you don't have it mounted on wheels, the first thing you're going to want to do is place the camera securely down on your apple box or flat and sturdy surface. Remove the weights so that the weight of the jib is resting on the camera side. It's very important that you remove the weights before you remove the camera. If you remove the camera first, you've essentially created a catapult. Once you've removed the weights, you can then safely remove the camera as the weight is resting on the camera end, and then lift the jib from the center near the tripod. So this is a great tool to get a lot of extra production value. It's a lot easier to use than a Steadicam, and it's something that the camera can live on for the entire shoot. For pricing, visit www.magnanimous.biz and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.